Hello, neighbor. I'm so glad you're here again, in this quiet space of ours. On my table, I am holding something I found on a walk by the ocean a long, long time ago. It is just a seashell, a very ordinary seashell, the color of ivory, with the most delicate spiral pattern. When I hold it close, I can still smell the faint scent of salt and the sea that lingers somewhere inside. Have you ever held a seashell to your ear? People often say that when you do, you can hear the sound of the ocean, the rhythmic, rushing sound of the waves. When I was a boy, I believed that was true. I thought that some kind of magic had trapped the sound of the sea inside this small shell. That magic was so appealing because it was so simple. All you had to do was press it to your ear to hear another world. But then, as I grew up, I learned that the sound we hear is not the ocean. The sound is actually just the ambient noise of the room we are in, amplified by the special shape of the shell. The sound we are hearing is, in fact, the echo of our own world. And that makes me think about listening and about love. There is a very important idea that I have thought about a great deal. Listening is where love begins, listening to ourselves and then to our neighbors. It is just like this seashell before we can hear anything else. The first sound we hear is the echo of the space we already inhabit. The journey of listening, and therefore the journey of love, seems to begin in a place that is very close, right inside of us. Today, perhaps we can very slowly explore these two journeys of listening together. The first journey, listening to ourselves. This is perhaps the more difficult journey because our inner world is often a very noisy place, and the world outside is constantly pulling for our attention. The ringing of the telephone, the ping of a new message, the sound of the news on the television, the schedule for work, the list of things to do, the list of things to buy. The outside world is always saying to us, "Look out here, listen to me. There are more important things happening out here." And then there is the noise from within, the voice of judgment, always pointing out our shortcomings. I should have done better. The voice of anxiety, always imagining the worst case scenarios. What if this happens? The voice of comparison, always whispering that other people are doing better than we are. In the midst of all that clamor, how can we possibly listen to anything else? To listen to ourselves is not about trying to hear some grand, wise voice speaking from on high. No, it is a much simpler act. It is the practice of silence. It is allowing ourselves to have moments, even if they are just a few short minutes, of doing nothing at all, of just sitting still and paying attention. So what is it that we are listening for? First, we listen to our bodies. Our bodies are talking to us all the time, but we are often not paying attention. They speak in the language of sensation, a dull ache in the back of the neck, a tightness in the chest, a churning in the stomach, a heaviness in the shoulders. We often treat these signals as annoyances. We take a pill to make the headache go away. we try to ignore the feeling of fatigue and push through with our work, we are telling our bodies, be quiet, I don't have time for this. But what would happen if we tried to listen? If we paused and asked gently, this heaviness in my shoulders, what is it trying to tell me? Am I carrying too much? This tightness in my chest, is it a sign of a sadness or an anxiety that I haven't acknowledged? Listening to our bodies is the first act of kindness toward ourselves. It is the recognition that we are not machines. We have limits. We need rest. We need care. When we begin to listen to our bodies, we begin to learn how to love ourselves in the most practical way. Next, we listen for the quiet feelings beneath the surface of our busy lives. There are always quiet emotional currents, a fleeting feeling of loneliness as we walk past a couple laughing together, a small surge of joy at the sight of a dandelion growing through a crack in the sidewalk, a gentle, unnamed sadness on a rainy afternoon. We often brush these feelings aside very quickly. They are too small, too unimportant. But those feelings are messengers from our inner world. They tell us what matters to us. That small joy at seeing a flower might be telling you that you long for a connection with nature. That gentle sadness might be the echo of an old memory that needs to be soothed. To listen to these feelings doesn't mean we have to get lost in them. It simply means acknowledging their presence. Oh, there is sadness. Hello, I see you. When we name a feeling, we bring it out of the shadows, and it becomes less frightening, and then we listen for our forgotten dreams. Perhaps when you were a child, you loved to draw or to sing or to take things apart to see how they worked. Then life happened. Responsibilities came, and those passions were put away in an old box in the attic. Sometimes, in quiet moments, we can hear a whisper from that box, an urge to pick up a pencil again, a melody that pops into our head, a curiosity about how a clock works. To listen to those calls is an act of love for the child who still lives inside of us. It doesn't mean you have to quit your job to become a painter. It might simply mean buying a box of crayons and spending 15 minutes coloring with no purpose at all. It is allowing the forgotten parts of yourself to have a voice, to come out and play again. Listening to ourselves is a journey that takes courage, because when we listen, we may not only hear pleasant things, we may also hear our pain, our regrets, our imperfections. But love isn't about accepting only the good parts. Love is about embracing our whole selves with all of our light and our shadow. When we can do that for ourselves, we then have the foundation to do it for others. And that is the second journey, listening to our neighbors. This might sound easier, but it isn't always so. Most of the time, when we think we are listening, we are actually just waiting for our turn to speak. When a friend is telling us about a problem, our mind is often already racing ahead. We are busy analyzing, searching for a solution, formulating a piece of advice, or we are relating their story to our own experience. Oh, the same thing happened to me once. These things are not wrong. They come from a good intention. We want to help We want to make their pain go away, because seeing someone we care about in pain also hurts us. But sometimes our rush to fix things can accidentally send a different message. Your feeling is a problem that needs to be solved immediately. It shouldn't be here. And that can make a person feel even more alone, because there is a deeper kind of help. The help that comes from true, deep listening. So what does true listening look like? First, it is a gift of presence. It is putting down your phone, turning your body toward the other person, looking them in the eye, and giving them your full attention. Our undivided attention is one of the most precious and rare gifts we can give another person in this distracted world. It says to them, without words, for this moment, you are the most important thing. Your story is worthy of being heard. Next, it is listening to understand, not to reply. This means we try to set aside our own judgments and our own solutions for a little while. We try to step into their shoes and feel what the world is like from their perspective. When someone says, "I am so stressed out at work," our first response might be to offer a solution. Have you tried organizing your tasks differently? You should talk to your boss. But listening to understand might simply be to reflect their feeling. It sounds like you are truly exhausted. That simple statement can be powerfully healing. It lets the other person know that their feeling has been heard, that it has been validated. Most of the time, people don't need us to solve their problems. They just need to know that someone understands how they are feeling. And finally, it is listening for what is not being said. People often don't speak the most important things with words. We speak in the silences, in the hesitation in our voice, in a faraway look in our eyes. Deep listening is paying attention to those nonverbal cues. When a person is telling a happy story, but their eyes are sad. True listening is noticing that inconsistency. We may not say anything about it, but we notice it in our hearts, and perhaps our empathetic silence will create a space that is safe enough for them to share what is really hidden underneath. I think of a young woman named Sarah, a college student in Greensburg. As part of a volunteer program, she was assigned to visit Mr. Gable, an elderly man in a nursing home, once a week. At first, Sarah thought her job was to do things for Mr. Gable. She brought books to read to him. She told him stories about her life at college. She tried to be cheerful and entertaining, but Mr. Gable was a very quiet man. He would mostly just sit in his armchair by the window, looking out. Sarah's visits were often filled with what felt like awkward silence. She felt like she was failing. One day, Sarah came to visit after a very stressful week of exams. She was too tired to perform. She simply sat down in the chair opposite Mr. Gable and looked out the window with him. They sat like that in silence for a long time. And then Mr. Gable began to speak. His voice was very soft. He talked about the tree just outside the window, how it had been there since he first moved in, how his wife, Martha, had loved to watch the birds build their nests in its branches. Sarah didn't interrupt. She didn't ask a lot of questions. She just listened, and from that week on, everything changed. Sarah didn't bring books anymore. She just brought her presents, and Mr. Gable began to tell his stories. He talked about his younger days working in the steel mills in Pittsburgh. He talked about the first time he met Martha at a dance. He talked about the simple joy of eating a pie she had baked. He talked about his sorrows, too, about friends he had lost, about his loneliness. Sarah listened to it all. She listened to the stories, and she listened to the silences in between. She realized that the greatest gift she could give Mr. Gable wasn't entertainment. It was the space for his memories to be heard, to be honored. Her love for him was expressed not through the act of doing, but through the act of listening. And you see, these two journeys are deeply connected. When we practice listening to ourselves, we become more familiar with the complex inner world of a human being. We know what fear feels like, what sadness feels like, what uncertainty feels like. And when we recognize those things in ourselves, we become less judgmental when we see them in others. Our own self-compassion becomes the compassion we can offer to our neighbors. And the reverse is also true. When we truly listen to another person's story, we often hear the echo of our own. As Sarah listened to Mr. Gable talk about his life's choices and regrets, she began to think about her own. As she heard him speak of his deep love for his late wife, she learned something about the endurance of love. Mr. Gable's story helped Sarah to hear the questions and longings in her own heart more clearly. We realize that our struggles are not unique. We are all in the same boat, and that realization helps us to feel less alone on our own journey. Listening is not a passive act. It is a conscious choice. It is a skill that needs practice. It requires patience. It requires humility, but it is the fertile ground where love can begin to take root and grow. It begins by holding the seashell to our own ear and having the courage to listen to the echoes of our own inner world in all its complexity, not to get trapped there, but to understand it. And then it continues when we are able to put our own shell down and give our full attention to listening to the voice of a neighbor, a friend, a loved one, to truly hear the vast ocean in their soul. That is how we build the bridges from one heart to another. You've made this day a special day just by being you, with all of the sounds and all of the precious silences inside of you. Thank you for being here, my neighbor.